In this course, we're going to focus on individual projects with individual users. But when you're working in an office environment, you'll frequently be working on projects that have a team of participants. Now, working in a team is going to vary a little bit depending on whether you're in Revit or Revit LT. Revit supports what we call work sharing or central models, and that allows more than one user to access a project at the same time. Revit LT does not have this functionality. So what will happen is that if you try to open a single user project that somebody else is actively working in, you'll see some sort of a read-only message that looks kind of like what I'm showing here. And it would allow you to open the file read-only, but then of course you wouldn't be able to save any of your changes. So that's going to make it a little difficult to work together in a team. So in Revit LT, you typically need to make sure that your projects are small enough that you can have individual member teams where only one person needs to be in a file at a given time. If you need to have multiple user access to the same file, then you really need to be on the full version of Revit. So that would then use what we call work sharing, and that would involve something called a central file. So a central file, you could think of almost like a database. That's the master copy of the file, and it lives somewhere on your network server. And what will happen is the individual members of the team will access that central file from that location, but what they'll actually be doing is creating a local copy of that central model that's tied to their individual username. And it will look something like this. There'll be individual central model on the server and then several different local copies associated with each user. Now, this image comes from the Autodesk website, and you can see an overview of work sharing here. And if you want to read through this document to learn more about it, you're welcome to do so. Now, to create your local copy, it's as simple as browsing to the central model on the server, select it, and then down at the bottom of the open window is a work sharing area, and you want to make sure that the Create New Local box is checked. Now, this is checked by default, so there really shouldn't be anything to do here other than to verify that it is in fact checked. You don't want to uncheck it, because if you do, that would actually open the central model, which is considered generally to be a bad idea. So we want to make sure we're creating a new local, and then you would open as normal. Once you're in a Workshare enabled project, you just continue work as normal, and what will happen is Revit will manage what users are accessing at any given time, and it won't let more than one user edit the same geometry at the same time. It would prevent that from happening. Now, if you look at the home screen in Revit, you can identify in the recent files area Workshare enabled projects by the small little icons that appear in the lower left-hand corner. So this first one that I have right here, you can see this small little icon here indicates that that is a Workshare enabled project. And notice that if I hover over this icon, it tells me that that is a central model. If I move over to this one, it looks a little bit different. Notice that there's a small little cloud icon superimposed over the Workshare icon. And this tells me that this is a Workshare cloud model. And then this one is a standalone project, so it does not have a badge at all, and it just simply tells me what the path to that file is. So that makes it really easy for you to identify which kind of file it is before you click on any of those recently opened files.